Welcome back to Proxy, everybody, and today we're going to be discussing how to build an Aeldari army on a budget, and yes, we are going to go into the Ynnari as well. Now, not a lot of players know this, but the Eldar are actually one of the cheaper armies to build, up to 1,000 points as well as 2,000 points. The only problem here is that a lot of the units that we have in our army are older sculpts and usually fine cast or something we have to find on eBay. And unfortunately, a lot of the out of production models are things that we can find for, very marked up prices. So models like Fuegan, for example, can go anywhere from $40 to $50 on eBay for the old metal sculpt. And a lot of people just aren't willing to pay that if they're just starting the army. And especially if you're just looking at the competitive aspect of the game, the Eldar can seem daunting to get into because, again, of all the, out of production models and marked up prices that we see on, places like eBay and Amazon and stuff like that, when it comes to those units that are deemed for high level play. But on the flip side, if you're looking to get into Eldar because you love the models and you think they're a really cool army, there's actually a very affordable way to get into the army if you are planning to start the Eldar with new sculpts and good-looking models that are not going to cost you much at all. So it's my hope that I can kind of walk you through the process of how to create an Eldar army on a very small budget, or at least as small as you can get away with. So what we're going to look at today is which sets provide the best discounts and value, and then we're going to go through a step-by-step purchasing and selling guide to create a 1,000-point Aeldari list. So first of all, for any new or returning players who are looking to expand their force, look no further than the Aeldari Combat Patrol. This retails for $160 from GW, but you can easily find it for $120 on Amazon or eBay. Both of those have that box set, for that price fairly regularly. And $120 for essentially over $200 worth of models is an absolutely exceptional deal. And if you don't want a particular part of that box set, you can easily resell those sprues online or to your, friends at your local game shop. And of course, with the money that you make from that, you can always reinvest it into new box sets or new kits, like the Eldritch Omens kit, which can also be found on eBay and sometimes Amazon for about $200. eBay often has the Aeldari half for about $85, and just recently I actually found a Eldritch Omens box set for $145. And that was the full set, including all of the Chaos models as well, so it was quite a good deal. Also, something that recently came out was the Striking Scorpion Kill Team, which retails for $67, but you can find it for around $55 on eBay and about $63 on Amazon. And again, this is a great kit. It comes with 10 Striking Scorpions, which, getting 10 models for $55 in this day and age is a pretty good deal as well. So some of you may be wondering what is included in these box sets. So just to go over a quick recap of what's actually in them, the Aeldari Combat Patrol has a unit of Guardians or Storm Guardians. You can build them as both. It has a Wraith Lord. It has 2 units of 3 Wind Riders, so 6 in total, a Farseer, and that's it. But like I said before, if you purchased all of those models separately from GW, it would cost well over $200. So you are saving a lot of money there. And of course, you can get it for a discount on other retailers. The Eldritch Omens box comes with 5 Rangers, 3 Shroud Runners, and an Autarch, which can be built, of course, as the Autarch on foot or the Sky Runner, which is great. You're going to need basically all those models in an Eldar army to field an effective force. So there's no wasted money there. And if you do go for the whole box set, the Chaos half does include a Forge Fiend, which is a pretty popular model in certain Chaos builds, a Warpsmith, and of course 5 Chosen. And of course, as we know, Chaos Space Marine players just love their Chosen. So all of the models on the Chaos side are pretty easy sells. But what about the Ynnari? So as far as the Ynnari go, the Drukhari Combat Patrol is around $140 on eBay or Amazon. It is a little bit more expensive, but it arguably comes with a little bit more value in it. having the Archon, Incubi, Cobalite Warriors, and Raider and Ravager as well. And just in case you guys are wondering, yes, the Raider can technically be built into a Ravager with a couple of extra bits. They're essentially the same kit. So, if you don't want the Raider and instead you want to opt for the second Ravager, you can definitely do so. Yvraine is something you very much need for Ynnari army, and she can be found around $30 on eBay or Amazon, and I think she's a little bit more expensive on the GW website. But I don't think it's that much more last time I checked, so kind of on the cheaper side as far as bigger characters go. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about how to build an 1,000-point list. So the first thing every new player should be thinking about when they start up, a new faction is, first of all, researching the faction. I can't state that enough. You don't want to just buy into a faction without knowing much about how they play on the battlefield. I do have several videos on this channel covering the topic, covering Eldar strategies and tactics and playstyles and stuff like that. So, if you are interested in Eldar, definitely check out those videos before you buy. Or, of course, the plethora of other Eldar content on YouTube. I know Craftworld Eldar does some good reviews on units and things like that, as well as some great interviews. And Auspex Tactics also has quite a few videos discussing the basics of how to build an Eldar army or how to at least start one. And I think he recently did a video on this same topic. So definitely check that out as well if you're thinking of starting the Eldar. So having said that, this is what I would recommend every new Eldar player or prospective Eldar player buy first. The first purchase is the Combat Patrol. So unsurprisingly, obviously, it's going to be the Combat Patrol. The reason is it's a fairly cheap way to get into Eldar. It gives you a great idea of how the faction plays at very small games. And it gives you an idea of where you might want to expand the army from there. And because it's such great value, it has a lot of resale value as well. So, if you don't like the Wraith Lord, if you don't like the Wind Riders, you can always sell those. And typically speaking, you can make a profit on it. So obviously, I think you should buy the Combat Patrol first. Now, that's going to give you about 500 points. But typically speaking, most players want to play at the levels that the, 10th edition rulebook kind of lays out for you. So the first step is building an 1,000-point list. So the next purchase should probably be the Aeldari half of the Eldritch Omens box set, or purchase the full box and sell the Chaos half. After that, that will give you about 200 or so points, but you should probably build the Autarch as the Wayleaper just because, you can always kind of use the Autarch Wayleaper as a normal Autarch if you want to. No one's going to question you on it. It's kind of one of those things. They look so similar. So, of course, you might as well just build it, as the Wayleaper. Next, step 3 is to purchase the Striking Scorpion Kill Team. And this is because the Striking Scorpions are a very good unit right now. And they're, kind of a quintessential aspect warrior at the moment. They're extremely strong for the points you pay, they have infiltrate, and they are a good way to introduce people to melee combat. And lastly, I would try to purchase a Falcon on eBay or, a third-party marketplace that is selling for a discount. You can usually get one of these for around $40. It is an older model, but it has aged exceptionally well, like fine wine. It looks like an awesome vehicle. And to this day, it's probably one of my favorite looking Aeldari vehicles. And it's actually, ironically, the oldest. Okay, so let's say, though, that you didn't want to go with a balanced Eldar build. You wanted to do something more themed. Maybe you wanted to go more jet bike heavy, or you wanted to go, kind of more Wraith heavy. Then, of course, there are options for you as well. And this is why I also suggest that players buy the Combat Patrol, they buy the Eldritch Omens box, because there's so much value for the kits inside that if you sell those kits, you can actually not only make your money back, but in a lot of cases, make some profit off of it. And just to give you guys a quick example, a Wraith Lord you can easily sell for around $40, and that's being a little bit conservative with it. But, typically you can easily sell one for around that price, or a set of Wind Riders for around $40 as well. So if you didn't want the Wind Riders or the Wraith Lord, you can, kind of sell those and get what you want out of them. The Rangers can be sold for around $35, if not around $40 as well. And of course, this offers a decent discount to whoever you're selling them to. And, obviously you can use the funds that you gain from that to buy the units you want to buy. And this would give you enough to buy Wraithguard, Wraithblades, Warp Spiders, Swooping Hawks, etc. Kind of, whatever your heart desired for your particular theme. So let's assume, though, that you didn't want to sell anything, you didn't want a themed list, you just wanted to, get into the Eldar in the most balanced way possible and kind of start to learn all their different strengths and weaknesses and how they ran as an army. So I've put together an 1,000-point list for you guys to kind of guide you into what you should probably be running. So you should probably run an Autarch with a Phoenix Gem. Now this is going to be on foot. You don't quite have enough points in the list to actually just, go full Way Leaper with the Phoenix Gem and everything like that. So, you're going to have to kind of, use the Autarch on foot if you want. But the flip side is if you don't want the Rangers in this list, you can actually cut those out and put the Way Leaper into this list. So, it's definitely up to you. I think this list has enough infiltrators to where, you can kind of afford not to use the Rangers in this particular build. We do have a Farseer as well for Fortune. That's really good on things like the Wraithlord. And sometimes Storm Guardians, which we also have in this list for sticky objectives, which is a, very important and useful special rule to learn in the game. We have 6 Wind Riders for some, anti-marine firepower, which you will need because most of the opponents you're probably going to be facing are Space Marine players. So having something that can effectively deal with them is going to be important. We do have 5 Rangers. We have 2 units of 5 Striking Scorpions, 3 Shroud Runners, and the Falcon. And of course, the Falcon is there as well to provide some anti-tank support, as well as buff up one of your Striking Scorpion units and make it into, quite a deadly threat. And in my opinion, it's a very good way to teach a newer player to the Eldar about how Eldar synergize with each other. We have a Falcon in this list for that. We also have 3 Shroud Runners, which do synergize very well with the Wind Riders, giving them lethal hits. But of course, lethal hits also is great for a lot of other models in this list as well. We have plenty of units in this list that are also very good at scoring secondary objectives. Rangers, Shroud Runners, Striking Scorpions can score those early on in the game as well as the Autarch, if you actually do choose to use the Way Leaper version there. But at the same time, we also have a plethora of anti-large options as well, including the Wraithlord, who can take 2 Bright Lances. We have, a couple of fusion guns on the Storm Guardians, and we also have the Falcon, which is very good at taking out tanks. Now, realistically speaking, this is a very balanced list. If you go against somebody in 1,000 points that is trying to skew the game in any way, you're probably going to have a harder time killing those skew units. But the great thing about this list, it's also versatile. If your opponent is, using a lot of slow-moving and, very tough units to kind of hold primary objectives, this list is fast enough to, kind of ignore them, score secondaries when you can, focus on one side of the board, and make sure that side, dies, and then can kind of work its way from there. And of course, a lot of what makes the Eldar strong is their maneuverability and their ability to kind of run circles around your opponents. So you do have to definitely use that to your advantage. Now, as for what its cost is, it is going to cost you around $305 plus tax. And although this isn't the cheapest way to build a 1,000-point list, it's pretty close. It's pretty close. There's not a lot of other ways to actually build an Eldar list on the cheap that is as versatile as this one is. And some of you might be wondering why there's no Avatar of Khaine in here. Because, after all, an Avatar of Khaine is as many points, if not more, than the entire Eldritch Omens box set, or at least the Aeldari half of it. So isn't that the better financial deal? And I would say that, financially speaking, yes, it is slightly better. But I actually don't recommend using an Avatar of Khaine in 1,000-point battles if you are a newer Eldar player. And this is why. The Avatar of Khaine at 1,000 points is, in a lot of ways, a crutch for newer Eldar players. Now, I don't say that in the wrong way, but having an Avatar of Khaine in your army is going to inevitably force you to play the game differently. And also, the Avatar of Cain does skew 1,000-point games quite a bit. Some players that you go against will not have the tools to deal with the Avatar of Cain. Now, in a competitive setting, this can be a very good thing. In a learning setting where you're just starting your army out, maybe you're not super competitive, maybe you're more on the semi-competitive or even casual side, this is going to lead to a lot of frustration from other players who are maybe not skewing as hard into big, unkillable creatures, like the Avatar of Cain. And that's why I highly recommend for people trying to get into the faction, trying to learn how the faction operates, not to pick up an Avatar of Cain right away, but to wait until they're playing 1,500-point games or 2,000-point games, respectively. An Avatar of Cain is an awesome model. It's a great centerpiece. I think every Eldar player should have one at one point, but I just don't think it's the best starting option for a lot of newer Eldar players. And over-reliance on the Avatar of Cain can also lead to some disappointment later on down the road when you are playing 2,000-point games and your Avatar of Cain is not exactly pulling the same amount of weight than he did at 1,000-point games. And truthfully, for the most part, for any Eldar player that is just starting out, I think it's better to learn the different synergies that exist within the Eldar army rather than just have an over-reliance on a very strong, monstrous creature. Alrighty, so let's go and dive into building an 1,000-point Ynnari list as well. So the first thing you're going to do is, you guessed it, purchase an Aeldari combat patrol. It's just such a good deal, guys, and even if you decide to sell almost everything in the combat patrol and you only keep one or two things in it, it's still worth buying because, again, you're probably going to break even, or if anything, you're going to profit off of it, and that's just free models, right? So it's definitely one of the most cost-effective beginning purchases that you can make. Next, you want to purchase a Drukhari combat patrol. Same thing here, even though it's a little bit more expensive, the models in that box set have extremely good value. And in most cases, every single unit that is included in both of those box sets are going to be useful and good units on the battlefield. Next, of course, you're going to have to purchase your Vrain. Probably should be step one, but honestly, the reason why I have her later is because you can still play games with just a combat patrol. You can't play games just with your Vrain. So at least if you have both combat patrols, you can kind of try out if you like Eldar or Dark Eldar better and maybe, kind of inform your decisions based on that. Step 4 is purchase a Venom and Troop. So you're going to want a Venom transport, which is absolutely necessary for any Ynnari list, in my opinion. And you're going to want a Troop as well, which is, again, going to be absolutely necessary when pairing them with your Vrain. So this is what we're going to have for our 1,000-point Ynnari list. We're going to have your Vrain in there. We're going to have a Farseer with the Reader of the Runes. We had some extra points, so we just added that in. We're going to have Guardian Defenders, a Wraithlord, 2 units of 3 Wind Riders, a Venom, a Ravager, Kobolite Warriors, and a Troop. And that's going to bring us to 995 points. So this is very similar to the Aeldari list where we have an example of units that really synergize well together. Kobolite Warriors synergize really well with the Blade Storm stratagem for really good damage against mech targets. The Troop and your Vrain work very well together as well. She gives them some pretty good durability, nothing to rely on, but good durability, and she has a powerful range attack, and they're really good at killing infantry. The Ravager is really good for anti-large. 2 units of Wind Riders are extremely good for either objectives or, just kind of being able to take out Marines. Wraithlord is very good against anti-large as well, having the 2 Bright Lances, as well as some decent combat punch. We have the Guardian Defender still, of course, and we do have a Farseer with the Reader of the Runes to cast Fortune on things. Typically, you're going to want to cast on the Wraithlord, but it might not be a bad idea to cast it on the Troop to make them more resilient to bolter fire. And this particular list will have a lot of fate dice. Having the Guardian Defenders, having the Farseer with the Reader of the Runes ensures that you're going to be able to, pop those 6s, those 5s much more easily for your damage rolls. So you're actually going to be, doing much more damage against large targets than your opponent actually thinks you'll be able to do. Now, I will say this, full disclosure, if you're looking to play ultra competitive Ynnari, this is not the way to go, okay? This is for players who want to expand their Ynnari collection and really learn how the faction plays, with the fact that you're going to also be bringing in Dark Eldar units into the fold. But it also plays pretty effectively, kind of checks all the boxes, right? It's good at secondaries. It's good at primary objectives because, not only do you have sticky objectives in the list, but you also have some durability there that is going to help you out not only with your Vrains unit, but with the Wraith Lord itself. And it has good damage against multiple different target types. Now, this is slightly more expensive than the Aeldari only list that we made earlier, but it's actually a better value overall because there are units we did not use in this Ynnari army that do come as part of the box sets. So we're not using the Incubi, we're not using the Archon, and of course we're not using the Raider, and all three of those models can be used as you expand into 1500 points and beyond. And basically the reason why we didn't use these units in the original 1000 points is simply because we didn't have the support necessary to make them effective. These would be excellent if they had the tools to be able to be utilized to their full potential. So Incubi, for example, really like having a Falcon in a Ynnari list and or Drazar to be able to hit harder. They just don't hit hard enough for the points in a Venom if you're running them with Ynnari alone. The Archon is also a really good choice for making it harder for an opponent to get off stratagems. They do have the, Lord of Deceit ability. Now, if you're playing WTC, this is going to be wasted because only your Warlord can get it, which is going to be your Vrain. But in regular play, if you're just playing Pariah Nexus, it's not going to be that big of a deal. Or if you're playing, GW missions and stuff, you're still going to be able to get that ability. Because it's only the WTC that is clarified that only the Warlord in Drukhari and Ynnari lists can be affected by the Lord of Deceit. The Raider also pairs well with a Farseer Skyrunner for Guide, especially if you have a second unit of Kabbalite Warriors in that Raider. Being able to not only reroll all of its hits, but also be targeted by the Bladestorm stratagem for extra damage and extra AP is just absolutely amazing. So, for those of you guys who don't know, Dark Eldar weapons, Splinter Weaponry, is anti-infantry 3+. So that means that critical attacks are also, procced on a 3+. And of course, the Bladestorm stratagem procs on critical wound rolls, which is absolutely insane. So putting them in a Raider, throwing Guide on the Raider, then targeting it with the stratagem, Bladestorm, is just an epic way of doing a bunch of damage. However, like I said before, all of these synergies that you're seeing here are going to require additional units, which are only going to be possible in bigger games. So that's why I chose not to include the Incubi Archon or the Raider in our first 1000 point list. Okay, so I do want to address this as well, and this is a big question in the Eldar community right now. Should you buy older sculpts for the Aeldari? It seems like we're going to be getting a huge range refresh within the next 6 months or so whenever our codex comes out. So should we even bother buying some of these fine cast models and old out of production metal sculpts on eBay? Now, seeing as we're probably going to get new Swooping Hawks, Fire Dragons, Warp Spiders, and basically all the old sculpts that, are just either fine cast or metal or what have you, I would actually hold off or purchase proxy models when you expand your army. And that way you do not have to rebuy, rebuild, or repaint anything. And I know some veterans out there might disagree with this, but as far as your value is concerned, I just don't think there's a lot of value in having units that, for one, you're still learning to use because you are a new Eldar player, and it might take you a while to get used to them. Two, that again, you're probably going to have to replace or at least rebase if you want to play them in the future in competitive games. So I just really don't think they're worth it. And honestly, you can create a pretty effective Eldar army at your local game store, and even something that can, be pretty good in RTTs and things like that without buying most of the, kind of more out of production models. And if you do want to try out these units, I highly recommend using either proxy models or 3D printed models or third-party services for this, because there's some excellent work done by, some creators and stuff like that as far as 3D printing goes and as far as alternative sculpts go. And again, this way you don't have to feel obligated to buy the new sculpts when they come out. And like I said before, remember, if there's anything you don't like in the Combat Patrol, Elder Showman's box set, or what have you, you can always sell those units and purchase what you want instead. The great thing about having a value set like the Combat Patrol is that you save a lot of money on the individual units. And that means there's a lot more flexibility in being able to, make the purchases that are right for you. Now, some of you might be sitting there thinking, well, Proxy Hammer, that's all well and good, but I don't really have anybody that I can actually sell to. There's no one that I know that plays Eldar, and, I don't really want to use eBay or anything like that because they, kind of take a significant part of my sale. And trust me, guys, I know what you mean. I used to have an eBay business myself, and it always felt like I was losing money on every single sale. So if you are thinking that, I do have some good news for you. We, of course, have the Proxy Hammer Discord that you're free to join for absolutely no cost if you want to buy or sell models within your region. So yeah, if you are looking at selling some models, definitely come check us out. Join the Discord. It's totally free. We also talk about, of course, strategies, tactics, and hobbying within the Discord. And it's a great way to connect with other Aeldari players for advice. And of course, to discuss the superior nature of the Eldar and why we are the coolest faction in the game. And how do you join, you might ask? Well, you can sign up for a Patreon free trial, which is no cost to you. You just cancel the free trial before it's over, and that's that. The Discord link will be on the Patreon page. Just message me if it doesn't work. I'll fix it up quickly. And then, of course, last step, cancel the trial. Support is appreciated, but not necessary. And enjoy the best community in Warhammer 40k. So, in conclusion, I think the best way of starting an Eldar or Ynnari army is to purchase the box sets, and that just has to do with pure value that you get from them. The Combat Patrol or Elder Showmans with a few add-ins will roughly cost you about $300 to $350, including tax, for an 1,000-point army. And of course, the great thing about this is this will give you all the tools to really learn the faction and is a great foundation to build on top of. But as always, let me know in the comment section what you guys think about this, what you guys think is the best way to build up an Eldar army for a good price. Let me know in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your ideas about it. And that, you guys, is going to be the end of today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you to all my patrons and supporters who have supported the channel. Over the last almost 2 years now, your support has greatly improved the channel and helped it grow significantly. We're almost to 5K subscribers. Let's get there together. And as always, if you do want to support the channel and help out, I do have free trials on my Patreon open, which will grant you permanent access to our Discord community, which is a community of Eldar players and enthusiasts who love talking about strategies, tactics, and of course, hobbying. I will leave the link for that in the description below. I'm also an Amazon affiliate and have a channel store page, so if you want to grab some discounted Eldar minis on Amazon or some Eldar-inspired apparel on the channel store page, I will leave the links in the description for those also. All right, everybody, that is going to be it for today's video. See you guys next time. We have lots of content planned for the future, and have a great day. Have a good one, everybody. Peace out.